What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talkin ATL Hawks. And guys, we have a very, very special episode today. Do you know what today is, fellas? Do y'all know
What
what
is
today
that?
is?
What is
It's
that?
uh it's February 16th.
No, you've got it all wrong. It's episode
Oh God!
six,
Oh
7.
God!
And you kind of ruined it because you had it
Yeah,
backwards, so it's
I
showing
know.
seven
I
six.
lost. I lost all aura, bro. I lost
Not
all aura, bro.
not
Oh,
gonna
Rocker.
cap, you kind of ruined it.
Yeah, I lost all aura on that one, boys. That's my fault. I sold. But you get the picture. Welcome back to episode 6, 7, everybody. I've been dying to do it. That's the only reason I started this podcast, by the way, is just so we can reach this episode and I can do it on camera.
Yeah,
Just
now, now
FYI.
now we're just gonna leave the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah,
So this is the final episode, actually.
yeah,
So
we're
let's
done.
let's
Yeah, we're done
let's
after
end
this.
it with a banger.
That's all he wants to.
Nah.
That's all he wants to do, Loki.
Just kidding, fellas. This is another episode of Talking ATL Hawks. We ain't going anywhere. I am here yet again with my beautiful crew, John. And then there seems to be a bug on my screen, but I guess that's Chase. But anyways, guys,
Yeah.
happy President's Day. I don't know if you guys are like us and we got the day of work taken off for President's Day, or maybe John, I don't know if your classes got canceled for President's
Well,
Day.
well, man, I don't have classes today. Anyway, people do have classes today, but I don't have classes today. That's how my schedule worked
Uh,
out. So I just lucked out, I guess. But yeah, we do have classes today, unfortunately, but not me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not everyone's as fortunate as Chase and I, but fellas, like always, we have some more Hawks basketball to get into. We had two games that occurred right before the All-Star weekend, and now we're going to talk about the All-Star weekend as well. But before we get into all of that, how y'all doing? It's I don't know if y'all are feeling patriotic like I am, but it's President's Day. We have the Winter Olympics going on, and USA is just absolutely crushing it right now.
Yeah.
We currently have the most gold medals out of any other country per usual. So yeah, it's a great day, fellas. How y'all doing?
I'm doing great. Just a chill weekend. I went home. Spent Valentine's Day with my mom because my dad's on a business trip.
Ah,
Unfortunately, and so he was able to spend Valentine's Day with us. Me and my mom went to a bar and just 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 some eating and stuff.
that's right. I forgot it was Valentine's weekend.
Watch the All-Star activities.
Tell us about this serial killer museum that you went to,
Oh
John.
yeah, funny. Oh yeah, so funny thing about that picture I sent you guys. So that picture was actually the posterior of a Florida State student who was killed by
Yeah,
Ted Bundy.
Yeah,
Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy used
Hey,
to hang out
that
at the sororities at Florida State University. They actually
that
have a sorority
for
named after Ted Bundy.
Do they
for
actually?
not named after him, but in one of the sororities, they have a picture of Ted Bundy at the sorority that he used to hang out at the most. And why they have that, I'm not too sure. But for reference, John sends us a what appears to be some butt cheeks.
Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah, no.
it's
It wasn't just butt cheeks. It was a bite mark of Ted Bundy biting a butt cheek. So he
so
bit
even
a girl's
better.
butt cheek. Yeah.
So
Man,
yeah,
man knows ball.
and John staged it as he was at the serial killer museum. But
Yeah.
I'm not too convinced. I believe John probably bit some booty cheeks and send us a picture for proof.
Hey, it's Valentine's weekend, man.
It was
Game is
Valentine's week.
game.
Hey, if he would have said that, I would have believed him. So
I mean,
hey,
I'm not gonna deny that either. But
Whoa, is that
wait.
is that is
Hey,
that where
now,
this bite mark came from, guys?
probably, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I have a
I'm
bite
about to
mark
say
on me.
my
I
butt's been a little sore.
Whoa.
I mean, hey man, I'm not gonna deny nothing. But
Whoa.
um,
Whoa.
like me and my friend Kinsley, who went to the Hawks game with us back in January.
Mhm.
So what she wants to do after she graduates, she wants to get into forensic psychology. So she wants to
Wow.
like
Mm.
like deal with all that kind of stuff. So my mom was actually the one that told us about this museum. So we went to the museum. There was about like 40 different rooms that we had to go into. It was a lot. So we went into all these different rooms. I was looking around. Like, some of it was like way too graphic too. Like just
Oh Lord.
yeah.
John is inspired. John is inspired now, boys. You better watch out.
Where was this at?
It was it's in Pullman Yards in Atlanta. I'm not sure if you know that. I'm not sure if y'all know where that is.
I don't think so.
Not at the top of my head. Mm-mm.
I think it's in like the ghetto part of Atlanta, like the ghetto, like the actual ghetto part of Atlanta.
Is that like 80%?
I think so. Yeah. But anyways, like so after that, we went to Hudson Grill, and then we went to Jonesboro because she wanted to go play volleyball with some friends. So I went to go watch her play volleyball. Since she goes to watch my basketball games, I had to pay her back and watch her play volleyball. So yeah, that's how my weekend went.
Chase.
Hey, it's like you said, it's President's Day, day off of work. We watch some All-Star Let me try it again.
Hold on. There, I'll let you regroup yourself.
We watched some All-Star festivities yesterday, and for the first time in a long time, to be honest, the first time since Kobe died, that All-Star game, we were able to say that it was actually a fun and competitive All-Star game to watch. I know we'll get into that here in a little bit. The only disappointing part about the All-Star weekend, in my opinion, was the dunk contest. But I think we can point certain fingers to certain people as to why the dunk contest just hasn't been the same since 2016, Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon. But we'll once again get into that here in a little bit. But, Hawks play basketball again this Thursday, so we can once again say it's game week. Hawks, sitting at 4 games below 500. We had a rough end to the first half of the season, which we'll get into. So, Kuminga will be joining the Hawks now. Hopefully we'll see Buddy Hield get some more minutes as well.
Yeah.
And, hopefully the Hawks can kind of regroup, get a fresh start, and make a good push. And hopefully by some miracle, maybe we can end the title and physique that we are playing merchants, and maybe we can at least sneak into that 6th spot because it's not completely out of reach. We are not that far behind. We just got to start waiting consistently and stop, dancing between getting right at 500 and then dropping below, getting right at 500 and dropping below. We got to actually commit to getting above 500.
We would rather be somewhere in the 6-7 spot.
It's still backwards, Andrew.
Yeah,
it's because I had to take the mirror off my camera, and I didn't want to have to do that again.
Speaking about those games, it should be very easy to get back to 500 because we playing that with these next 4 games should be winnable games. We play Philly, Miami, Brooklyn, and then the Wizards twice. So the last 3 games should be win.
Hey, but those are the games that we love to lose, man. It's the games we are supposed to win that we love to lose.
Well, let's before we get into Hawks basketball, let's kind of migrate back over to the All-Star break. I know that came after the games, but we're going to start off the episode talking about it, and then we'll get into the 2 games that led to the All-Star weekend. But I just want to, tip my cap to the NHL commissioner. And yes, I said NHL as a National Hockey League, because this time last year, the NHL commissioner had such a wonderful idea to just completely ditch the All-Star festivities altogether and implement a new idea that is now known as the 4 Nations Face-Off. He thought, why not? Because the NHL was kind of experiencing the same things as the NBA was, just not a lot of pride in playing in the All-Star games anymore. So he was like, let's implement a pride factor back into it. So they got the 4 biggest nations that represents the NHL players, And they let all those NHL players go represent their country in a round robin style tournament. And if you didn't tune into the Four Nations face off, then I'm sorry for your loss. Because not only was that the greatest all star festivity in the history of professional sports, that is one of the greatest watches you will ever see in sports altogether. So,
Is that
Adam
already happening
Silver.
season? Is the All-Star game is the All-Star weekend for NHL happening already yet? Or
No,
And
they didn't do it this year because of the Winter Olympics. So they just
okay,
that's
yeah,
what's going on right now. They're
that makes
using the
sense. That makes sense.
winter. Yeah, they're using the Winter Olympics as their All-Star break.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
But the Four Nations face-off will be back next year. But yeah, so Adam Silver took note of
I mean,
this,
that's
and
kind of
what
the same thing if you think about it, like the Olympics and
It's just instead of four nations, it's like a
that's
lot of nations. So
that's sort of the same thing if you think about
yeah,
it.
yeah, and so Adam Silver, when he was crafting the idea, because we were introduced to the round robin style of All Star play last year, but it didn't go as planned because there was still no incentive to win. Like nobody was really trying, nobody really cared, and it was rudely interrupted by horrifically long breaks in between the games,
Oh yeah,
and
Well, it's
players
'cause-
didn't like that.
it's because the games
wasn't there like a stat saying that there was like more minutes of like commercials playing than actual basketball?
because
Yes.
the games were too short. It was like what, first to 25 or something.
Mm.
It's like, dog,
Yeah.
if you throw together two teams of loaded all-stars, especially with no incentive to win, they're gonna get to 25 in like 8 minutes. And I think the NBA wasn't prepared for how short the games were, so they just had to throw a bunch of advertisement breaks. It was just a whole mess. But the idea was there, the heart was there, the execution was just horrible.
Well, that and they had that stupid halftime break when a team got halfway there, which also took like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
that
Adam
was dumb.
Silver, he's been trying. I'll give him credit. He's been trying to revamp the pride factor in the All-Star weekend, but there's been a lot of failure. They should have
just kept what they did for Kobe Bryant that one. They should have just kept that as like a permanent thing to honor a basketball legend that tragically passed away.
I think the reason why. Yeah, I think the reason that wouldn't have worked, unfortunately, is because I think that was really just a one-time thing. Because the reason why that All-Star was so good was because they were playing for the pride of representing Kobe Bryant and his daughter that tragically passed away. And though you could have kept that theme going for years to come, eventually that pride would have dried out. Not because nobody likes Kobe Bryant or all that, but because you can't keep pushing that narrative on every single All-Star game. There has to be a permanent reason why you're playing for pride. And Adam Silver, when he created the new format this year, said that he took inspiration from the success of the Four Nations face-off, and that's why we got the two USA teams versus Team World and the round robin tournament. It was each team's played one 12-minute quarter, so you got 4 quarters in total. And we saw electric defense. We saw hustle on transitions. We saw Wembenyama get emotional when his team lost because it genuinely hurt. And you had the crowd chanting USA during the games. It legitimately felt like an Olympic event, because there was the pride of playing for your country. And that's the point I want to make, is when you give a player's reason to be prideful about what they're doing, that's when you're going to give the best version of whatever you're trying to create. And this All-Star week, All-Star game that happened last night was undoubtedly the best, most entertaining, most electrifying All-Star event we've had since the passing of Kobe Bryant. And there's a lot more to get into it. Of course, Jalen Johnson represented the Atlanta Hawks, but I want to hear.
There's a question for you guys.
What's up?
So since this was so successful, do you guys think that maybe since we're gonna be we do this more often. Like we have the USA versus World. Do you think that we'll see like some All-Star game, like some All-Star weekends like outside the U.S.? Like let's say in like France or Europe or Serbia, like where like or Greece maybe.
I mean, maybe. I think Stephen A. spoke about it
That
very
would be
well. That
cool. Like we can't just have the USA team have a home field advantage, like home court advantage.
I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't say that they would travel internationally, and the only reason why is because they already have midseason games internationally, and the NBA is like the North American version of basketball. So I think when it comes to like celebrating the league and their stars, I think they're going to kind of want to keep it home turf. And plus, if they would do that, then players would have to travel, get jet lagged, and then come back and hop right back into season. I'm not sure if the players would want to do that either. But I really like what Stephen A. Smith said about the All Star festivities. I think he spoke very well about it. And he mentioned like the reason why it worked. And he said that the solution to the All Star game itself has been simple all along. And yesterday, we finally got to see that represented. We just wanted effort. We just wanted competitive basketball. And that's what we got because we saw what turnovers. Players were fighting for steals. We saw blocks. We saw chase down blocks and transition. When is the last time you've ever seen anything like that in an all-star game? And we didn't really see that, to be honest, the year Kobe died. I mean, it was competitive, but it wasn't that competitive. This was
It was only in like the final minutes of the
Right.
game when they got close to that scoring total that things really got competitive. But we
This
got
was-
that for the entire event last night.
Yeah, but here's the
This
thing
was-
too. That on that All Star game, didn't that All Star game like end on like a free throw?
Yeah,
it
Wasn't
did,
Anthony
yeah.
Davis like foul and like one off a free throw.
And
Like,
there was even a fight for it as well. Like after Anthony Davis got fouled, Anthony Davis shoved the guy that fouled him, and there was a little bit of a scuffle, and that was really cool too. It's like when have you ever seen a fight in an NBA All Star game? But that's what it was. It was effort. And to be honest, yesterday could have gone one or two ways. It could have gone how it did go, where there was actual competition, actual effort, and a strive to win. Or it could have been just like the other All-Star games. And I give a lot of credit to Victor Wembanyama. And Anthony Edwards shouted him a lot. Shouted Victor out a lot as well yesterday and today because, of course, Ant-Man won the MVP. And he said that Victor Wembanyama set the tone right from tip-off because, he was part of Team World and they played first. He won the tip-off. They instantly gave him in the post, and he threw down a quick dunk, played defense on the other end, and then quickly hit a three in transition. And Anthony Edwards kind of spoke about it and said that's when everybody kind of realized, okay, Victor Wembanyama has noticed that in the past couple of years that nobody's really cared about winning the All-Star game. And he kind of set the tone that that's going to change right now. We're actually going to put an effort. We're actually going to make this mean something. And everybody else followed suit. And I give a lot of credit to Victor Wembanyama because I almost feel like if he didn't set that type of tone and that type of rhythm early, then there is a chance that it could have been like the other All-Star games. And I think now that everybody sees the success of yesterday and that it gets a positive response from the fans and from the actual, editors and the watchers of the NBA, hopefully it would send a message, okay, this worked. This is what everybody wants to see. We need to continue to throw pride into this and show the world that this matters to us as players, and there is pride of winning the All-Star game.
Well, just to think about it, like, why did Victor Wembanyama want to set that tone? Why did he care so much? And it's because, well, you got to take a look at the narrative of what's been happening in the NBA. There hasn't been an American-born NBA player win the MVP since James Harden did it back in 2018. And that's kind of ruffle some feathers a little bit. There's been a lot of talk from Europe countries saying how their athletes are taking over the National Basketball Association in North America, and how without the European athletes, the NBA would be a dead league. And that's also ruffled some feathers. And that's what kind of created that sense of pride. Like Team USA wanted to kind of neutralize those comments, but Team World wanted to add an extra layer to that narrative that, European born basketball players are better than American born basketball players. And that narrative leading up to this All-Star game, I think instantly in my mind kind of made me fall in love with the format, because I already kind of knew that with the narrative that's been going on the last few years, that there's going to be some sort of intensity in this All-Star game. And that's exactly what we got. And that's why Wembanyama grew so emotional when they lost that first game, because of that, there was, they left Scotty Barnes open, gave him a good look or whatever. But Victor Wembanyama desperately wanted Team World to come out on top. And then Anthony Edwards, even in the USA matchups, like even when it was USA versus USA, there was still that narrative that, Team USA Stripes, had an older edge to Team USA Stars. And they wanted the young stars to come out and kind of outshine the vets of the league. And you had Anthony Edwards talking trash to KD when he hit that three over him to tie the game, and then it led to that De'Aaron Fox buzzer beater. It was just an unbelievable event. And I think
KD was a little preoccupied last night.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, I know.
Maybe. But before we get into Hawks basketball, I want to ask you guys this question. I'll just open the floor to discussion. The dunk contest. It was an epic fail, as it's been since 2016. Now, there's been talks about what you can do in replacement of the dunk contest, but I don't think that's actually going to ever happen, because the dunk contest is way too iconic to kind of get rid of altogether, but it's definitely something that needs to be tweaked in order for it to bring the excitement back. Now, you can make the argument that, if the big stars in the league would actually take, part in playing in the dunk contest, like LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, yes, it would be more exciting, but even then it would still get to the point like, okay, we've seen this over and over again. There's something that can be done to the dunk contest to make it more exciting. And I think, in my mind, you can kind of resemble USA versus World and the dunk contest as well, and that would also add an extra layer of excitement. But I want to hear what you guys think. What needs to happen to the dunk contest in order to bring the relevancy and the excitement back to that contest?
Tracy, got anything?
I do.
Okay.
Bring out players that actually dunk. And what I mean by that, Stephen A. Smith, I watched a lot of Stephen A. Smith this morning because he spoke on this topic. And it's kind of rare that I agree with Stephen A. Smith on a lot of topics, but his take on the All-Star game, I think, is spot on.
Stephen A. for president, am I right?
Hey, he's talking about running for 2028. You know what? He has my vote just because of what he said about the All-Star game. And you know what? Look, and when he talked about the dunk contest, it's kind of funny because the whole time he talked about the dunk contest, he just blamed LeBron James the entire show, saying that LeBron James ruined the dunk contest. And what he meant by that is that LeBron James is an example of a dunker in the NBA. He puts on a NBA dunk contest show during the layup line, is what Stephen A. Smith said, and that he teased several times that he was going to be in the dunk contest, but never really showed any interest and care and actually partaking in the dunk contest. And because of that, stars started following suit and started getting the idea that, hey, this dunk contest doesn't really matter. And because of that, they had to go find random Joes in the G League or the back of the bench to represent. And there's a little
Chase, hold on. I know you have my phone and Mom's calling.
She is calling.
Can you send her a text and let her know what we're doing real quick?
Yeah, I forgot I shut up on your screen.
Yeah,
and there's a little a statistic that came out about the players that represented the dunk contest this past weekend. Jackson Hayes for the Lakers, he dunked like 144 times throughout his career. The other three that are represented have dunked less than 10 times in their entire basketball career, including college. So it's like because there's a lack of care and that the stars don't care or strive to represent themselves in the league in this event anymore, they have to find scraps, the random Joes that don't even dunk to represent. And that's why we're seeing awful excuses for dunks because they don't dunk. And it's
Was
like,
it like 2 years ago, like fans like voted in players to do these contests, or was it always like players to volunteer? Because I remember like back in the day, like someone had to like people had to like vote for players.
That probably used to be the case back when people cared, but since people don't care anymore, they had to go scrape the bottom of the barrel to find players.
Yeah.
I think the only way you can get back to the NBA dunk contest being great is find the dunkers that actually showcase good dunks in play. Like get Giannis out there. LeBron James needs to, swallow his pride and go out there represent. Anthony Edwards, John Morant,
Johnson.
Jalen Johnson, which, by the way, Jalen Johnson did say he will be in the dunk contest next year, and I cannot
or try to be. I don't think he quote said he would. I think he said he was gonna try to.
He said if he got the invite, he would say yes. He did say that. I would be surprised.
They're gonna let Damian
surprised.
If they're going to let Damian Lillard join the 3-point contest without even playing a game, they might as well let Jalen Johnson automatically get the bid next year.
I would be surprised if Jalen Johnson doesn't, get the invite next year anyway. But I think that's the only way you can fix a dunk contest is actually go out there, get the players that actually dunk and show off impressive stuff in game, and get them to care and represent the game. And LeBron James, I don't think it's all his fault, like Stephen Smith is saying, but I do agree that LeBron James, because he's a leader, he's the face of NBA. People look up to him, and I do think he set a bad tone about the dunk contest, and now these other stars are starting to follow suit. So I think he, as a leader of the league, like you're supposed to be, he is sending a bad message, and it did help ruin the contest.
I mean, if you take a look at Michael Jordan back when he was, the face of the league, he participated in just about every dunk contest during his prime. Yep. And I think you kind of right about the other stars in the league kind of, grew a sense of urgency like, hey, I got to be in this thing with Michael Jordan because if I can be Michael Jordan, then, I'm known as the best dunker in the league and all that. And I do agree with what you're saying, but I also fear that even if that were the case down the line, the dunk contest would still grow dry. I feel like if you're Adam Silver, you need to bring that sense of pride back where the stars in the league want to participate. But I think you also shouldn't be afraid to try to change something up in the way the dunk contest works. So that way there can be another sense of, I guess, I don't really know the way to put it, but I feel like you're never going to have a true dunk contest without the pride factor. And yes, if you get LeBron James and all that, and they'll get competitive, they'll want to beat each other. But I feel like if you can, for some way, implement a USA versus world in the dunk contest, that would also bring another layer of pride and another urgency to win. And I think that's what you're looking for if you're on. So if you're asking me, I think every single league except the NFL, because there's really no international players in the NFL to make this work. But I feel like every league needs to find some way to bring an Olympic style like atmosphere to All-Star Weekend.
Not the MLB.
I think that could work in the MLB. I think the MLB is okay. The MLB is okay.
MLB is the only all-star event in the four major sports, in the North American sports. The MLB is the only sport that has their all-star festivities down packed. They do not need to touch a thing.
Yeah, but I think the point where I'm getting at is we've kind of come to find out that representing your country is the best way to get what you're looking for in every single week. I mean, the MLS has been doing this for years. It's always the MLS All-Stars versus the Liga MX All-Stars or some top club from the European League, and that always delivers because there's always that sense of pride. Always that sense of pride. And that's what we saw in the NHL, the Four Nations face-off. That's what we saw with the NBA last night with USA versus World. So I think what we're finding out is if you want to bring the best out of athletes, you've got to find some way to allow them to represent the country they came from. And that's how you're going to get the top-notch physicality that we've seen so far. So I think it is possible to implement that in something like the dunk contest. And I would love to see Adam Silver try to experiment with something of that nature next year just to see how it goes. Just to see how it goes. But yes, we also do need some of the best dunkers in the league to actually participate in order for that to work. But could you imagine like Victor Wembanyama versus Anthony Edwards in a dunk contest? Like that would be freaking nuts.
Yeah. I'll give my thoughts real quick. So I mean, like my thing is like, what more? I mean, like, what more kind of dunks can people do? Because we've pretty much like seen everything that. I mean, like we've seen like Blake Griffin jump over cars. We've seen like guys jump over like people like Shaq, Taco Fall. I think someone jumped over Wemby like a year or two ago. I think.
Exactly.
I mean, we've always seen like these like super creative like RMAC 50-point dunks. Like I don't like. My thing is like have more. I mean, what other way can like guys get creative to do these like cool ass dunks to like get more points and like blow people's minds? I mean, because we've already like seen it and like we've seen it all basically.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying you have to find some way to tweak it a little bit so that way it doesn't get repetitive. Because that is a reason why the dunk contest has also kind of died down the last few years. Because it's gotten very repetitive.
I agree, but Reggie Miller spoke about it during the dunk contest, and I agree with what he said. He said that I understand it's kind of hard to get creative now because we've pretty much seen everything, but there is going to get to a point. But there is going to get a point where we're going to see something we haven't seen before. And the thing is that, and here's a reason why I don't agree that's going to cause the NBA dunk contest to be dry. Because let's take 1985 all the way down to 2016. How many times have you heard anybody complain about the dunk contest? Zero. Because it represented stars. Even 2017, even though the dunk contest was horrible, it was still fun to watch because the actual stars were partaking. But it was
John Collins trying to jump over a plane, which would have been cool if he didn't break the freaking wing or break one of the propellers.
Absolutely shattered it. That was fun to watch, even though it was awful. It was still fun to watch. It was really, I want to say 2018 is when we started to see a decrease in the stars participating. And that's when people started complaining about the dunk contest because that's when it became uninteresting. People need to go back to using props, using celebrities, using other players, blowing out cupcakes, the candle on a cupcake when they're dunking, putting their arm in the ring. Yeah, that kind of stuff. People need to go back to doing that, getting that kind of creative. And the only way you're going to see that is if these stars come back in. And I think as long as we have that aspect, even if it are things we've seen before, you can always take it up some kind of notch. And if we bring that aspect back into the contest, only then are we going to see positive reviews from the dunk contest once again. Because from '89, almost 25 years, we never heard a peep about people complaining because the stars cared. That's what's good. That's the essence. The stars cared. That's what mattered.
And I feel like that's why you got to implement a USA versus World into it. I feel like that's the only way you're going to get stars to care about it is if you make them, if you give them the opportunity to represent something. Which is why I think Adam Silver needs to experiment. But that was a nice little discussion. But I think it's time we hop into the two games that took place right before the All-Star weekend with the Atlanta Hawks.
We didn't mention about the actual game. Jalen Johnson. Well, I can't say Jalen Johnson was doing the recruiting. Someone wants to come home.
Anthony
wants to come home.
Did y'all hear after the game when he was talking to Jalen Johnson and he whispered to him and said, "I want to come home so bad"?
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, that's.
Look, Anthony Edwards, like he's a Georgia native, man.
Maybe send Nall back to Minnesota.
Here's the reality of that. There's no way that the Atlanta Hawks could trade for Anthony Edwards unless it meant giving up Jalen Johnson, which we
Oh yeah,
absolutely
no.
cannot do that. So I think the only reality of Anthony Edwards coming to Atlanta is if he walked in free agency, which could be very possible if the Minnesota Timberwolves continue to have disappointing postseasons year in and year out. Anthony Edwards will eventually get tired of it, and that might bring an incentive to him for him wanting to come home and play for his hometown team, the Atlanta Hawks. So that is, I'm not taking it out of the equation, but if Ant were to ever walk in free agency, I think the Atlanta Hawks would absolutely be his number one destination.
He even told Jalen Johnson that the Hawks look like they have such a fun roster to play with. He was like, man, y'all have so many wings. It must be so much fun to play in Atlanta. That's what he said to Jalen.
We do. We just can't. We just can't win.
We can't play defense. Offense is fine. We just can't play a lick of defense.
But let's get into that. Let's get into how bad our defense is, starting with
Minnesota.
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Look at that. What a coincidence. What an
unintentional transition.
I think not.
It was Nalo's homecoming, of course, during the first TV timeout of the first quarter. They played him a little tribute video. Of course, he was a big part of their postseason run last year when they got eliminated by the Oklahoma City Thunder. But he played phenomenal, and that's what made him such a big headline pickup for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, did Nickeil Alexander-Walker play well in this game? Not at all. Not at all. He played a much better second half. He actually played a really good second half. For the first half, he just couldn't get a shot to fall. But that's not where the big problem lies. We'll get into that in a minute. The Atlanta Hawks took this trip to Minnesota, knowing that they had a trip to Charlotte the following game before All-Star Weekend, knowing that the Charlotte Hornets were breathing down their backs, knowing that we could go into All-Star break sharing the play-in spot with the Charlotte Hornets, which has come to fruition now. But let's focus back to the Minnesota game. This is a big game for the Atlanta Hawks. It's a testy road trip. Minnesota's always been a tough place to play for Atlanta, and I guess I can't really say I'm too shocked because we saw the same problems kind of flare up for the Atlanta Hawks. But I want you guys to start with this game. This is just something that I'm going to say, and I'm sure you guys are going to agree with me. What makes Atlanta Hawks basketball so aggravating to watch is we kind of saw this at the start of the season, and we kind of, figured out a solution, and it's kind of resurfaced now. The Atlanta Hawks are very, very prone to getting off to some very, very sloppy starts in basketball games. And what makes that so aggravating, other than the fact that we dig ourselves a hole so early, is Quinn Snyder has functioned this team so well to play really, really good basketball down the stretch of games. Once the Atlanta Hawks reach their flow state, I like to call it, they always find a way to get themselves back in basketball games, no matter how large the deficit is. But it's awesome. I love that the Hawks have such a rich ability to fight back in basketball games, but it also makes it so unbelievably excruciating to watch sometimes because you just figure that the Atlanta Hawks can tap into that flow state from the moment tip-off happens. We could win so many more ball games because I feel like over the last month and a half, 9 times out of 10, the Atlanta Hawks are having to fight their way back to win basketball games. Rarely ever do you see the Atlanta Hawks control momentum from the start. Now, we do have those games. I'm not saying we don't, but very rarely do we do. And we're capable of it because of how how quickly we're able to adjust to certain situations during timeout breaks, because the NBA it's a game of runs. We've known this. It's a game of runs. It just takes one run for your team to be back in a basketball game. But it also takes a momentum control factor that the Atlanta Hawks just doesn't seem to have. We'll pick up the pace and we'll have momentum for a good 7-8 minutes in a basketball game. But once we lose that momentum, it's right back to square one. And that's what I felt with this Minnesota Timberwolves game. And I know it had a lot of different factors, but I want y'all to get into those. John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, like I think the biggest factors was that we didn't have Dyson or Jalen Johnson for this game. They were both out with injuries.
Very true. Very true.
And so our starting lineup was CJ McCollum, Nah, Zachary, AC Newell, and Double O. So we also had to rely on our bench a lot. Our bench consisted of Corey Kispert, Mo Gay, Jock Landale, Buddy Hield, and Gabe Vincent, which I believe was the first games that these guys have played since since we acquired them.
Yep.
Obviously, like they were a bit rusty.
Yes.
Over the first game with us, but it doesn't also help when two of our starters can only make one shot throughout the entire game. When Ace is shooting 1 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, and then Zachary shooting 1 for 9 from the field and 0 for 6 from 3. How many starters we play that bad doesn't help our case whatsoever. So.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. This was a prime time to play Minnesota too if we would have been fully healthy, because Minnesota was on the verge of some horrible basketball. I mean, they lost before this game. They lost to the Pelicans. They got absolutely blown out by the Clippers. They were giving up, I think, in the last 5 games, it said they were averaging like 125 to 130 points that the opponents were scoring on them. And
all on their home court. All on their home court, too.
As great offensively as Atlanta has been when they're fully healthy, this was a prime time to play Minnesota. And to be honest, our offense did still look pretty solid, despite no Jalen Johnson, despite no Dyson Daniels. CJ McCollum, like Andrew really mentioned, he was the only one all game that played great from start to finish. Nah eventually came in the picture in the second half, and nobody else really played great. I mean, Jock Landale was still pretty productive. Coming off the bench. But the thing is that there's always that one moment of the game that the Hawks just play horrible basketball, because first quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, we played toe-to-toe with Minnesota, and there was even a point towards the end of the game where we started to make a little bit of a comeback. But it was in the second quarter where the Hawks just fell apart, and we got ourselves in a hole, and it was just too little too late to scrap ourselves up, because the Timberwolves were just playing great basketball. Julius Randle got a triple-double. Anthony Edwards was absolutely light out. Rudy Gobert shot 100%. So just like
which rarely ever happens.
Wow, he actually ran with that.
What happened?
He shot 100%. Wow.
Rudy Gobert shot 7 for 7. Yeah, that's
which rarely ever happens.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
When do you ever see that? I'll tell you, pretty much never. But of course, it happens.
He's doing for defense, not offense. Like what?
Yeah, but he's usually so soft in the paint. And for some reason, he was just bullying Onyeka Okongwu and Jack Landale like it was absolutely nothing. And then I think frustration just overcame the Hawks toward the end, and that's when Muhammad Gay got his little scruffle with Naz Reid, which I gotta be honest, this is my thing about Muhammad Gay. It seems like that Muhammad Gay is just there to play basketball, and then if he gets an ounce of physicality on anybody, people just want to fight the man. It happened in Memphis with John Morant when Muhammad Gay and John Morant got a little scuff on the court, and John Morant tried to reach his arm over Muhammad Gay tried to reach his arm over John Morant's head, bumped him in the forehead with his elbow, and John Morant got butthurt. Same thing with Naz Reid. He was just simply setting a screen, and he did kind of shove his arm out of Naz Reid, which threw him to the ground. Muhammad Gay didn't care. He took the foul like a man. They caught an illegal screen. And he was like, yeah, my bad. But, of course, Naz Reid had something to say about it. Then he pushed him from behind. That started a whole scruffle. And,
John Landale got the worst of that scruffle because he kind of ended up at the bottom of it and left with a nasty cut on his arm and his head. So, somehow John Landale, who wasn't even involved, got the worst end of that scruffle. But
And that frustration just kind of represented the entire game because that was a very frustrating game. And I really do feel like that's a game the Atlanta Hawks, a very important road game the Atlanta Hawks could have taken. Have Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels been healthy to play that night? Unfortunately, they weren't. We did what we could. It was just a little too overpowering for us to handle. But then that's when we had our trip to Charlotte right before All-Star break.
Well,
And not to mention, we didn't even mention that while this Minnesota game was happening, Charlotte was was in North Carolina at home playing Detroit, and they had a scruffle of their own, which led Mikal Bridges and Miles Bridges, I'm sorry. And then the other guy's name that gave us so much trouble the previous time we played him.
Diabate.
Yeah, Diabate. It led them to get ejected. So Bob Rathbun was talking about that during the broadcast, and they're like, wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels should be back for the Charlotte game. We're going to be playing a very – They were back. And so Bob Rathbun's like, hey, we're going to be playing a very short-handed Hornets team because the rule is if you're suspended, if players get suspended, you are not allowed to fill that roster spot. So if 2 players get suspended, you have to play 2 players short, which means the Hornets were going to have a very short bench, which means a lot of their starters were going to be playing practically the entire game. And it was in Charlotte, so, a place the Hawks don't play very well. So this was a prime opportunity for the Hawks to get a very important win against a very short Hornets team whose winning streak was over because the Pistons finally beat him. But unfortunately, that is not what happened.
Well, let's take a step back. Let's not leave Minnesota quite yet. There's a couple of important notes that we need to talk about this Minnesota game. Hey, just a little minor one. And Onyeka Okongwu played without his mask for the first time in Minnesota. He did have a special mouth guard.
That's why we got blown out.
Because he still has to be careful, in the mouth here. Somehow, I still don't believe it, but somehow it's still a career-ending threat if he gets popped in the mouth again. I don't know how that would be career-ending. That's just what the doctors told him. So he has to wear a special mouth guard, but he wanted to kind of dish the mask, even though it looked pretty dope. It looked like Bane out there. He didn't want to wear it anymore. And Onyeka Okongwu, not his best showing. I mean, he he got outplayed on the defensive end pretty much the entire night. He had a couple, well, he actually had no blocks. He did have one steal though, and only 14 points. But this is a big talking point. Ace Anua, like Jordan mentioned, was in the starting lineup. Only took 5 shots. He was very underwhelming. Seemed like he was kind of uninvolved, even though he got about 25 minutes of playing time. Zachary Richese, though, another horrific offensive showing, shot 1 for 9, only had 3 points. He had 2 turnovers, 2 steals, so he kind of balanced that. But I feel like Zachary Richese, and I know we've kind of touched on this before, there's a big confidence problem when it comes to Zachary Richese because when he's good, he's great. But when he's bad, he's awful. And I think that inconsistency has hindered his progression a lot because we're seeing so many flashes about 1 every 3 games. We'll see Zachary have a performance that makes us think, oh my gosh, maybe he was actually worth a first overall pick. And then you've got games like he had in Minnesota where he's not hitting the rim. He's soft on defense. He has 2 bad turnovers. He's slow in transition. I feel like Zachary's got to find some way to make himself useful when the shots aren't falling. Because I feel like when the shots aren't falling, that not only hinders his shooting performance, it hinders his performance on the court altogether. Because he also committed some really, really bad fouls in this game as well. And I think it was just out of pure frustration. But yes, let's take it to Charlotte, where, like Chase just kind of set the tone, had Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels back in the lineup. The Hornets were shorthanded. What's his face? Can't think of his name now. Hold on, I have to look at it. Why I can't think. Grant Williams. How Grant Williams, the newly acquired Charlotte Hornets, was not ejected because he literally came off the bench and threw a punch. I don't know how he didn't get ejected, but he shouldn't have been this game either. But like Chase said, big Charlotte game in Charlotte to end the first half of the season. Charlotte Hornets had a lot of, riding on this game. They just came to Atlanta a couple of nights ago where the Atlanta Hawks fell short in a very tight competitive game. And that's how most of the games have been this season. Even the first trip to Charlotte, the Hawks had to fend off a big comeback, and it came down to a deep LaMelo three in a Kongu's face. That kind of had some tension back and forth. You get this moment a lot when you're playing the Charlotte Hornets, but there's something in that first trip to Charlotte that really set the Hornets apart from the Atlanta Hawks, and that was their ability to shoot the three ball. Even when they're in Atlanta, the Charlotte Hornets knocked down 16 three-pointers, but thankfully the Atlanta Hawks also were able to match that with 16 three-pointers, but there is no better three-point shooting team, in my opinion, than the Charlotte Hornets when they're lights out from three, because it gets dangerous from the yard. And that's exactly what we saw from the moment tip-off happened. Again, it was another one of those slow generating starts from the Atlanta Hawks. The Charlotte Hornets really relied on their transition three ball to dig the hole deep for the Atlanta Hawks in that first quarter. And they located their best three-point shooters. It wasn't even LaMelo Ball. You had Grant Williams, who knocked down 4 three-pointers. Brandon Miller knocked down 5 three-pointers. And though LaMelo got up,
LaMelo had 7 threes still.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait. Grant Miller to make a three-pointer?
Yeah, Grant Miller shot over from deep.
What? No, he shot 5 for 14.
Brandon Miller. You said Grant Miller.
No, that's Grant Williams. I said Brandon Miller. Anyways, but even though LaMelo got off,
first thing we said was Grant Williams was shooting. You been talking? Is that who you meant?
You did say Grant Williams.
No, I said Brent. I promise you, I said Brent.
Hey, me and John heard it. Me and John heard Grant Williams.
We can run it back.
Okay. Let me
show the clip. Well, hey, coach's review. All right, let me take it back. Anyways, so even though LaMelo had a slow start, and then Chase interrupted me to say it. Yes, he had 7 3-pointers in this game, but all those came in the second. He actually had 1 3 in the first half, but all those came in the other 6 came in the second half. So he was a big factor down the stretch. But all in all, the Charlotte Hornets knocked down 19 3-pointers, 13 of those coming in the first half. And if you watch the game, you're gonna see it. It all lied on the Hawks' inability to close out the 3-point shot in transition, because that's where they were hurting us most. And that was Quinn Snyder's biggest talking point in the postgame conference, that the Atlanta Hawks have to be quicker in transition to get to the 3-point line and close out those shots. And then again, the Atlanta Hawks, even the 3-ball wasn't there for us, but we were able to counteract some of their runs because we were really good at scoring inside. But if you're not winning the transition game, the Hornets were always going to find more ways to hurt the Atlanta Hawks, and that's what happened, because the turnovers were also a really, really, really big sore for the Atlanta Hawks in this game. But Chase, I'll switch it to you first. Aside from the Hornets' ability to dominate from the 3-point line and force turnovers to hurt in transition, what are some other factors that just led to this abysmal showing from the Atlanta Hawks? I mean, it was a lack of control of the game. The Atlanta Hawks never really showcased control of the game until the final minutes, because the Hawks did scrap back, and they had a huge fourth quarter. We even had a chance to take the lead at the end of the game because Jalen Johnson hit a mid-range to cut the lead to 1. And then we got a defensive stop on the other end, and actually a forced turnover that led to an Aneke Kongu fast break for the lead, and he just completely lost control of the ball going up. I believe it hit his knee, went the Hornets' way, and then I believe it was
PJ Walker. We've seen that a lot with our big men. I believe it was PJ Walker that made the free throws on the other end of the game, which, by the way, shout out to PJ Walker, because he was a Clemson boy. We've watched him dominate Florida State for years. He stepped up because he was one of the guys that got more minutes because of the suspensions. And to be honest, the other two players. Are you talking about PJ Hall?
Oh, PJ Hall. Yeah, PJ Hall. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My
I was
bad.
confused. I was like, who are you talking about? Yeah, PJ Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, PJ Hall. I'm sorry, not PJ Walker, PJ Hall. Excuse me, Clemson boy. Because the other two Hornets players that got more minutes due to the suspensions was Cockburner and Grant Williams, and they really did do crap. So PJ Hall did all the heavy lifting in terms of the suspension minutes. So shout out to him. He's a Clemson boy. Um, and then right at the final position of the game, a Kongwu missed a three to tie it. CJ McCollum had a desperation three at the corner, which I'm not even sure he got off anyway, but he missed it regardless.
Yeah.
Before I kick it to you, Johns, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. One guy I'm just consistently starting to get disappointed with, I really hate to say this, is Akil Alexander Walker. Because I know you were mentioning about, Zachary Richey becoming inconsistent, as he has been, but Akil Alexander Walker has been right behind him in those regards. Because when Akil Alexander Walker is great, he is phenomenal. Yeah. And because he's getting those starting minutes now, because Trae Young's not on the team anymore, he kind of has that role as he needs to be the facilitator of this offense. He needs to be the one to help take control, help establish good ball movement, and be that guard leader like a point guard's supposed to be for the five to help take control of the game, and he just hasn't been doing that. He's been taking a lot of unnecessary shots, which has caused his field goal percentage to drop. His ball movement's not there anymore. He's been turning the ball over a lot more than usual. And that's kind of been left for Jalen Johnson to kind of stall and kind of take the game over by himself. It's almost like Jalen Johnson's had to kind of play the point guard role now, because usually what happens is the kill gets across half court, then instantly dishes to Jalen Johnson, and then he has no help and kind of has to take things for himself. And that's not how an offense is supposed to run. Yes, Jalen Johnson's the face of this team.
Can't be one-dimensional.
As a power forward, that's not how an offense is supposed to run. Yep. The point guard is not doing his job consistently anymore. That's Akil Alexander Walker, and that has hurt us a lot in these losses, especially in the Charlotte game. I'm going to kick it to you, John, because I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right. Like, not isn't doing his ball, bring the ball, facilitating the ball as a point guard should be. He's making that Jalen Johnson's responsibility, which it shouldn't be Jalen's. Responsibility should be setting screens and rolling to the basket or swinging out to the corner to shoot a corner three. But I mean, like based on this game, I mean, like we had guys like step up, like CJ McCollum, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson. Yes, we lost. But just based on these like stats, it just seems like he basically had like an off night, which I mean that happens. So like, that's my thought. Like I think he had like a quiet night, and we didn't really need to do too much because we had Dyson scoring 21, Jimmy McCollum scoring 17 off the bench. Jalen had 19 and Kongwu had 18. So
I want to give a big shout out to Dyson Daniels. You were right, Jordan. This is probably one of the best scoring performances we've seen from Dyson Daniels this year, just in terms of efficiency. Now, yes, he did have that one air ball that led to Eric Collins probably having a field day again like he did in Atlanta. But all in all, just inside the paint, he was really the only reliant paint scorer we had for, I'd say, about 70% of that game. And Dyson Daniels, what he does really well and kind of what we've seen him progress a lot and his ability to score in the paint is he does really good at finishing with contact, kind of like what we've seen from Jalen Johnson when he just rips to the rim. I mean, you'll give Dyson Daniels the ball at the top of the key. You set him one screen. He can take a defender to the chest and be able to still get a shot off and, off the backboard into the rim. And that's kind of led Dyson Daniels, in my opinion, to really elevate his game a lot more because, last year he was only seen as a guy, you don't want to be one-on-one with him at the top of the key defensively. But now it's like you don't want to be one-on-one with him at the top of the key offensively because of his ability to finish with harsh contact. And that's something we've really, really seen him progress with this season. So shout out to Dyson Daniels. He was easily our best inside scorer this game.
I know we like to say the Hawks love to lose the games they're not supposed to win, and this is a prime example. I understand Charlotte's been hot. They're proving themselves to be a very good and competitive team,
I'm
but I
scared of
don't
them.
care about that. This was a game the Hawks easily should have won, and I'm going to emphasize easily
Yeah.
because they were shorthanded, and the players that were given extra minutes to replace the suspensions didn't do crap. Cockburner didn't do anything. Grant Williams didn't do anything. PJ Hall, yeah, he did have a nice game, but should have done anything to win. And to be honest, the Hawks did their part defensively because Brandon Miller,
I wouldn't say the,
Concanupo,
I wouldn't say that because
Hang,
we
hang on. No, hang on. Concanupo, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball combined for 10 threes in the first half, and they continued to dominate the second half. It was just those three that gave the Hawks trouble defensively. And to be honest, a lot of the shots, LaMelo made 7 threes, and a lot of his threes were madly contested and stupid. And those type of shots we can give up. Now, I do understand that Concanupo and Brandon Miller were open a lot during the game. That just represents a bad perimeter defense that the Hawks have showcased all season long. But 110 points is all shots scored. And a lot of those points came from wide open threes that Brandon Miller and Canupa made that we could have held. But we played great defense on LaMelo Ball. He just made stupid shots. And then everybody else just didn't really do anything. It was really just those three. But the Hawks didn't step up where they needed to offensively. We had a lot of really bad turnovers. Now I'm looking at you. We had a lot of lackluster fast breaks. Our fast break was horrible. Case in point, Aneke Kongu, like you said, our big men had ball control issues all season. Case in point, Aneke Kongu, when the chance he had the lead, just simply lost it on a layup because the defender was trailing behind him. Nobody stepped up on the bench. Corey Kespert played 23 minutes, and he hardly did a thing. He shot over, but only took 3 shots. We're going to see more than 3 shots out of you when you have 23 minutes off the bench. I'm really disappointed, and the first time in a long time, and what was I? Quinn Snyder. I forgot our coach's name for a minute. And Quinn Snyder, because I feel like this was a prime opportunity for Gabe Vincent and Buddy Hield to get really good minutes because they were healthy, but they didn't play because he didn't want them to. And Gabe Vincent especially could have helped, I think, a lot with that perimeter defense. And I don't know why, because even Gabe Vincent, yeah, he shot the ball horribly in Minnesota. His defense was still phenomenal. We could have used some of that perimeter defense when Canupa and Brandon Miller was shoving their fingers up our cheeks with these wide open threes. And then Buddy Hield, when is he going to start emphasizing that Luke Kennard factor and that Vic Krivich factor that we don't have anymore since they're gone? When is he going to get good minutes off the bench to be the great shooter that he is? This was just a weird situation. It seems like there was a lot more the Hawks could have done to get a very important win in Charlotte, and we just didn't. And it was stupid. It was dumb. And look, this is a prime crash out right here. I am honestly and truthfully crashing out about this game because this was a stupid performance by the Hawks in all aspects. Absolutely ridiculous.
This goes back to what Quinn Snyder said, or what I mentioned at the start of this game, and what Quinn Snyder said, though. It's that inability to close out three-point shots. Because, Chase, you're absolutely right. If the Hawks weren't so lazy in transition and to get to that three-point shot for Concanupo, Brandon Miller, then the Hawks would have won this game, which makes me think it is a defensive issue because we let the Hornets set the tone early. Yes, we played great defense in the second half, but we let the Hornets gain momentum within the first 3 frames of the game because of the open three-point shot. And that's also why I think we didn't see Gabe Vincent or Buddy Hield, because Quinn Snyder felt an urgency to keep his main players out there because we were behind for 80% of the game, because he felt like we needed those guys out there to spark big runs and to get us back. And ultimately that's what we saw at the end of the game. But I feel like Quinn Snyder, yes, I feel like, maybe should have, implemented some better perimeter players like Gabe Vincent after the Hornets got on their big run. But all in all, we had the guys on the court to do that with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels. But even Dyson Daniels didn't do it. I mean, there was that one possession where don't know who forced a turnover, but it was a horrible pass inside the paint that led to a breakaway where Concanupo was on the other end of the court. Dyson Daniels was standing in the paint, and instead of running towards Concanoople to close out the wing shot. He stood there in the paint and just kind of put his hand up like that, and that's when Quinn Snyder flipped out and called his timeout because that's just lazy closeout. That is just unbelievable lazy basketball, and that's going to lose you games 9 times out of 10 like this one right here. So, yes, we absolutely should have won it. But I think if you're going to point fingers at anybody, it's the Hawks' inability to close out the three-point shot. Because
our offense wasn't great by any means. Our offense was not great by any means.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Had the Hawks not let the Hornets jump off to that big start at the start of the game, we would have never been down by as much as 23. We would have not had to fight our way back in the third quarter just to get a chance to win that game, and that would have led the Atlanta Hawks to have at least a moment in the game where we maybe could have controlled momentum. But we never had that opportunity because of lazy transition and lazy closeout, which led the Hornets to break our backs early in the game.
I feel like
I'm pointing my fingers at anybody, it's the first 6 minutes of that basketball game where the Hawks refused to close out the three-point shot.
I just feel like their big run, though, was more on our offense not scoring than our defense getting stops. Because during their massive run in the second quarter, there was plenty of opportunities where the Hawks got defensive stops, and we could have ended that run years ago. But our offense couldn't score. We took stupid shots. We weren't attacking inside because of Cockburner for some reason. When has he ever gave us issues? And then we were just giving them too many chances to extend their run. I feel like if our offense could have just been consistent, that run wouldn't have mattered because we can live with 110 points. You can't win in today's NBA with 107.
Well, you can say that, yeah, but that's why they say defense wins championships. Because how do you win basketball games when your shots aren't falling? You get stops. If the Hawks would have gotten,
we did get stops.
Not Chase. I'm talking about the first quarter, man. If the Hawks would have gotten,
I am too.
But we didn't get stops. We refused to close out the three-point shot. We let open looks for Concanoople and Brandon Miller. In the moments they did take it to the inside, that's when we forced harsh fouls and got them to the free throw line. The Hawks defense was stellar in the second half, but it doesn't matter when you look at the first quarter because we let the Hornets gain momentum way too early. Yes, the shots weren't falling, but you can still win basketball games when you're not making shots. You've got to close out the three-point shot. It's been the big exclamation point on the Atlanta Hawks all season, and it was the big exclamation point in this game right here. You can look at everything else because there are so many reasons why we lost this game, but if you would just close out the three-point shot, the Hornets would have never started the game up 18-6, and the Hawks would have gained momentum early, but we didn't, simply because we couldn't close out the three-point shot. That's all I'm saying. But yes. If you take a look into the season following All-Star break, like Chase and Jordan mentioned, we go to Philadelphia, which the Hawks have had a lot of success in years past. We take it back home against Miami, and then, like Jordan said, very, very stretch of winnable games starting on Sunday, February 22nd, where we face Brooklyn. And this is part of a 5-game homestand, by the way. And shoot, I would even say after the 2 games against Washington, we should have no problem starting off March with the win against Portland. I know they had our backs back in Portland a couple weeks ago, but we're just a much better team at home. So like Jordan said, if we can find a way to survive Philadelphia and take it back home and win against Miami, I don't see a reason why we don't win 5 in a row if we take control of Brooklyn, Washington twice, and then Portland to cap off the homestand. So, yeah, I think this is a big opportunity for the Hawks to gain momentum back.
Realistically, we should finish like 3-2 at the worst. Because I agree. Because here's the thing. Washington's already trying to tank, so like Washington wants their picks, so they want to lose. I mean, same thing with Brooklyn. Like, I'm not sure if Brooklyn has a pick or not. I think they do. But Miami and Philly, that's definitely where we're gonna struggle. But Brooklyn and the 2 Washington games, that there will be zero. There should be zero excuse to lose that game.
Yep. Agreed. But do y'all have any other final remarks before we close out this episode, fellas?
No, just happy. It was a good time watching the All-Star break.
It was.
All-Star break.
That was, and we'll have Hawks basketball back this Thursday.
Yep.
Absolutely, boys.
I'm ready for it.
For me, Chase, and Joyner, we will see you guys in the next episode of Talkin ATL Hawks.
Woo!